Off and running on a clear and sunny Thursday afternoon in South Ozone Park, Queens. It's the Big A, the 2014 Fall Meet. We continue on as well with Breeders' Cup Week. And Maggie Wolfendale here at our clubhouse studios. Jason Blewett alongside. You've made it in time. We're glad you're with us on this latest edition of Aqueduct Insider. And can you feel the excitement? Aqueduct and the Breeders' Cup combined.
The Breeders' Cup is such a time to look forward to if you're a horse racing fan. That is for certain, Jay. And I do get butterflies in my stomach thinking about it, and just the stories that come out. I'd love just sitting at home. Granted, it's awesome to be there, but I love just sitting at home and watching those races and the coverage, and it's just a great time of year.
Well, certainly a lot of money up for grabs tomorrow with the 4 races out at Santa Anita for Breeders' Cup Friday, day number 1 on Halloween to boot, and that's really where we begin. We'll focus in and certainly dissect and look at a number of top contenders in the $3 million Breeders' Cup distaff a bit later in the show, but let's begin with an unbeaten 2-year-old who I still think a couple of days removed from the announcement that American Pharaoh is going to scratch from the juvenile. We're still a little sad about that because we wanted to see him against the 2 unbeaten 2-year-olds from Todd Pletcher's barn. The good news, it sounds like he'll be pointed American Pharaoh to a 3-year-old campaign.
Yeah, a deep foot bruise isn't that big of a deal. Sometimes feet can be a plaguing problem for horses, and that they, it just takes a while. It takes a long time to get over, but it's nothing serious. He'll be back on track, I'm sure, within a couple of months, and Bob will have him ready for a possible Derby prep campaign.
What about Leah Giamardi? We go from Bob Baffert to more of a under-the-radar type trainer in Leah Giamardi, and that's the beautiful thing with this Breeders' Cup. Seeing people like Leah, who, I mean, she is a world-class horseman and a horsewoman, if you will. She's got Jeff Treadway, who's new money in the game, and they've got Sweet Reason, who's got a couple grade 1s to her credit, and she will wear, actually, a transparent green eye protector on Saturday.
Yeah, emerging out of the cotillion down at Park, she had a pretty serious contusion to her eye. She was hit with a big clod of dirt down there in Philly, and she actually spent a week, if you will, or 10 days at the Ruffian Equine Clinic across the street from Belmont Park, and they were putting, she actually had an IV into her eye, and that they had to administer, all kinds of creams, all kinds of antibiotics to her eye around the clock. And even when she came back to Leah's barn, Leah had to get up in the middle of the night to give her more medicine. So it's been a struggle to get that eye under control, but she's going to wear that. She's been training in it every day, so she's very used to it.
And she's been a prize for the connections, that's for sure. I think of Leah getting up even at 2:30 or 3 in the morning and having to get over to the barn early on and wanting to do that herself because it is Sweet Reason after all. I mean, you are dealing with a 3-time Grade 1 winner who won the Spinaway as a 2-year-old and would go on to win both the Test and the Acorn as a 3-year-old. And she is the leading money earner in this year's Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. Best of luck to Sweet Reason and her connection Saturday out at Santa Anita. As we turn our attention and gears towards this Thursday card, fast and good for 8 races at Aqueduct. We are underway at 1 p.m. We'll talk more about the 2-year-olds this time of the year at the Big A, but let's begin with the group of juveniles in the first race, a maiden event out of the chute at 1 mile. It's a good field as we send it up to John Abrial.
And they're off. A hesitant start for number 2, High Minded, from that inside post position, and he trails the field. Frosted is out for the early lead along with Aldrin. Aldrin and Frosted, and Gunlock is third. On the far outside is Teton Talon in 4th. Just in behind the front runners, To Dare races in 5th. It's a break of 4. Back to Tradesman, along with Gold Shield, and 7 more back to the slow-starting High Minded. The opening quarter mile went in 23 and 3/5 seconds. It's Aldrin on the inside, leading here by a neck. Frosted is alongside in second by 1.5 lengths. And then it's Gunlock and To Dare. They're right together, 3rd and 4th. To Dare takes 3rd. Gunlock on the outside in 4th. A break of 4 to Gold Shield, who's running along in 5th. Then comes Tradesman in 6th. Farther back is High Minded now in 7th, and dropping out of it is Teton Talon. Midway around the turn, opening half mile in 47 seconds. Aldrin and Frosted, they continue to battle it out here as they come for the head of the stretch. It's Frosted on the outside and Aldrin down at the rail. They're in the stretch now. 3/4, 1 and 1, 11 and 3. And now Frosted has taken the lead from a stubborn Aldrin. Frosted in front and clear. Aldrin in second. It's 7 lengths back to Tradesman and Gold Shield. Frosted, the winner of the opener at 3-5. Aldrin was second, very close.
We get a gray colt, a homebred for Godolphin Racing by Tappet. The gray on the lead, about to pass Aldrin, who actually outfinishes a 3/4 brother to Tappet. Pretty cool in today's first.
Yeah, it really was. But what's really cool was the performance by Frosted. He's still funny. He loves to swap his leads back and forth, but the acceleration that he had to pull away from fractions that he set battling here was pretty impressive against Aldrin, and he just kind of left Aldrin in his dust. But we'll look at the DQ that we saw from 3rd to 4th here with Tom Albatrani's horse, and you know, he definitely plugs into Gold Shield. It was a right DQ because they were only separated by a head at the wire.
That is Tradesman in the maroon cap and the Darley Silks on the outside as Israel Rodriguez continues to go righty. Gold Emblem, the Shug horse for Lane's End next to him. The stewards looked at it. They made the right call. We feel a little for you if you played the show wager and you were hoping to have both halves of the entry in the show pool, as Gold Shield gets the 3rd spot in the trifecta. But a big win here, as you were noting, with Frosted, who was running for the 3rd time. Do you, with the mile maiden win today, take a look at a race like the Remsen during Holiday Fest?
I think that's what they had in mind for sure when pointing this horse to this maiden race with Frosted. And he looks to, if this race turns out to be as fast as it looked watching it here live, he'll be probably odds on.
Well, certainly a horse that's going to take a lot of beating. We'll see who goes where regarding Breeders' Cup juvenile horses and maybe some of the also-rans and some other stakes around the country with later developing 2-year-olds, if you will, as we look ahead towards the Remsen here on November 29th. Let's move on. Erad Ortiz Jr., by the way, the winning rider in race number 1. Both he and his brother Jose would ride half the card. They skip town. They're on their way out to the West Coast as we fast forward to race number 7. It's the Thursday feature for Fillies and Mares.
Making Havoc makes the early lead. Trail Walker is down at the rail. Voodoo Tales moves up in between horses. And then it's CC's Pride. On the outside are Always Thinking of You and Expression. As they head up the backstretch, it's Making Havoc with the lead. Voodoo Tales in second. That's Laguna Girl. Laguna Girl is running in 3rd. Always Thinking of You is on the outside in 4th. Trail Walker down at the rail. Expression alongside. It's a big break. Back to CC's Pride, who trails in 7th. The quarter went in 22-2. Making Havoc has the lead here and is opened up by 3. Making Havoc in front. Laguna Girl's in between horses. Always Thinking of You on the outside, and Voodoo Tales down at the rail. Expression now gains some ground on the far outside as the field hits the quarter pole. Making Havoc, the one to catch, and she's in front now by 6 lengths. Expression moves into second. Making Havoc trying to hang in there for another 1/8 of a mile. It's Making Havoc by 4. Expression cutting into that lead. On the outside is Trail Walker. It's Making Havoc now by 2. Here comes Expression on the outside. Making Havoc still in front. Expression driving. Making Havoc got there. Making Havoc pulls off the upset. Expression was second. Then Trail Walker and the late closing CC's Pride.
It pays to be aggressive in small fields at times, and Israel Rodriguez, the 7-pound bug, took advantage of a lack of pace and just fires Making Havoc to the lead, and she holds on at a big price.
And actually moved to his 5-pound apprentice with this win here. It was win number 40 for Israel, and we saw, watching that first race, a bug boy mistake, but we also saw something that bug boys tend to do well, and that's be aggressive and be able to be light and kind of hold that horse to the line. And Making Havoc in the paddock, she looked phenomenal, so I was pleased to see that effort from her.
Claimed for a lot of money, 3 back, in fact, $62,500 by Phil Serpy. She was running 3rd off the claim, and a good note there with Israel now, a 5-pound apprentice, and he's certainly going into this winter meet, I've got to think, and we don't know at this point how many bug riders are going to be riding on this circuit. I've got to think he's a heavy favorite to be the top apprentice rider.
He's got to be here, Jay. He kind of reminds me of when Manny Franco was here with his apprenticeship. He's the same kind of physicality as Manny, small, compact, just that optimal jock physique. And looking at him, he's aggressive. He makes good decisions. If he can get on some live horses, which I'm sure he will over the winter, he's looking for a pretty profitable Big A.
All right, Making Havoc wins it in race 7 as we make our way to break with the first segment down on this Thursday edition of Aqueduct Insider. We've got Turf, we've got the Main, we've got the Breeders' Cup, so stay tuned with us on MSG+. Back to the Big A, the Remsen Stakes. Well, we'll have another 2-year-old in the winner's circle here on Saturday, November 29th. That is the day that culminates with Holiday Fest each and every November at Aqueduct. And, of course, money, money, money. You want some money to play throughout the month of November? Well, how about that $10,000 buy-in live money Breeders' Cup Challenge contest? Still room to enter. Top 15 players last year went to the DRF NTRA National Handicapping Championship. And take a look, the web address up there. There is information. You can register online. Maggie Wolfendale, Jason Blewett alongside. Will you be putting up the 10 Gs and entering the Breeders' Cup Challenge?
I wish I had 10 Gs to put up.
You want to whack it up? 5 and 5, 50-50?
We
you
might
and me?
need some other takers into that.
Well, with your paddock plays, I don't know. You know, we'll get you focused in on the monitor out from Santa Anita when they're walking around in the paddock. We might be able to take down.
You might be right. You might be right.
125,000 plus as we welcome you back here on Aqueduct Insider. Got a few more races to talk about today at the Big A. The second, Clear Skies in Queens. It's race number 8. This was the nightcap, and boy, this would be a close finish down to the wire as we send it back to Johnny I.
Hesitated at the start, trails the field. Are We Not Men? Perfect Stormy. And America's Guest. America's Guest goes on with it now to take a narrow lead. Perfect Stormy, Are We Not Men? Their heads apart, second and third. In between horses, there is a Peaceful Talk. On the outside is Stableford. And down at the rail is Here Comes Tommy. Here Comes Tommy ranked there and tough to handle as they head for the backstretch. Belly of the Whale is racing in 7th. Pep the Champ is next in 8th. Double Whammy is in 9th. Then on the outside is Roman's Paradise in 10th, followed by Birchwood Road and Garib. America's Guest leads here by almost a length. Are We Not Men runs in second. Perfect Stormy and Stableford. Those two are heads apart, third and fourth. Here comes Tommy down on the inside in 5th, followed by Peaceful Talk in 6th. Then it's Pep the Champ in 7th. Double Whammy, Belly of the Whale, Garib on the extreme outside. At the back are Roman's Paradise and Birchwood Road. The quarter 24 and 1, the half mile in 50 and 1. America's Guest challenged here by Are We Not Men. Those two come into the stretch together. Are We Not Men on the outside of America's Guest. America's Guest digs down at the rail with a head in front of Are We Not Men. Then it's Garib, Perfect Stormy, and Stableford. America's Guest trying to hold off Are We Not Men. Are We Not Men? America's Guest. They continue to battle right to the wire, and it's a photo finish in the finale. Very, very tight. America's Guest or Are We Not Men? Belly of the Whale came on for third.
3 consecutive photos in races 6, 7, and 8. They got progressively smaller, and here's the tightest one between Are We Not Men and America's Guest.
Yeah, Jay, you and I were watching this one live, and neither of us could call it. They showed that slow-mo, that tight shot, and I was about ready to say dead heat, but looks like Are We Not Men got up in the final strides.
Manny Franco.
Manny Franco.
Relentless. I mean, lefty, righty, and just got every ounce of energy out of this horse, who it looked like he was going to make it close, and then he started to back off America's Guest a bit, and it was Manny Franco's urging and insistence that got Are We Not Men to really make that final surge. And
also, I think it's the size of Are We Not Men's head that may have helped, because if you look at that photo, the ears are in line, but his nose is actually further. See, his ears are actually behind the other horses, but his nose is that much longer.
Well, pays to have a big head, I guess, sometimes. Certainly in a tight
horse.
photo like that. And white blinkers down on the rail. I'll tell you, Ken McPeak got a good effort out of America's Guest.
Did.
He's a guy, Maggie, that had a pretty good run over at Belmont Park.
Yeah, he did. And America's Guest, first time on the turf, looked as though he may have found a home. Unfortunately, it's the end of turf season here in New York.
Well, we'll look for Are We Not Men to maybe win another turf race before the grass goes dormant by a whisker or so down the line. John Toscano Jr., by the way, the winning trainer in the nightcap, a real family affair. Always nice when the Toscanos win a race because they've got the whole family out there, and a gelding by Awfully Wild, who's a perfect 2 for 2 off the claim. We talk about the Fabulous Five. We've got a few other highlights before we get down and dirty with the Breeders' Cup races. So let's send it back to John Abrial for the calls of races 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 off the quarter pole.
False positive. 3 of them across the track. Essence at Noon is 4th. Here's Fleeting, who now has the lead. Fleeting in front by 2, now by 3 lengths. False Positive in 2nd. Space Cowboys back running in 3rd. Fit to Keep has moved up now, but there'll be no catching Fleeting. Fleeting by 6. False Positive was 2nd. Then Fit to Keep and Golden Luck rounds out the superfecta. 5 seconds, and there's a 1/4 mile to the finish. It's Sure Runner and Serbond and Joking. 3 of them stacked across the track as they come down for the 8th pole. Joking now with a narrow lead. Sure Runner battles on. Serbond is there, and then Moped in 4th. Joking has the lead as they come down for the finish line, and it will be Joking. Length and a half. Sure Runner did get 2nd over Serbond. Mophead was 4th. Juju Beans is there. Tom's Vision is down at the rail. It's River Knight, Juju Beans, Bob and Jim on the outside. Juju Beans, Bob and Jim. River Knight is hanging in there. River Knight down at the rail. Juju Beans in between horses. Bob and Jim on the outside. The 3 of them come down to the wire, and it's going to be the filly Juju Beans to win it. Bob and Jim got 2nd. River Knight held well at almost 70-1 to get 3rd. Sangria, the 2 of them are together, and down at the rail is a What the Frost just in behind. Off My Cloud is now coming on through. They're coming down for the 8th pole. Coast of Sangria, My Tea Time, Pura Vida Zen. Way on the outside is Bobby Joe, and towards the rail it's Off My Cloud. Off My Cloud, here comes Pura Vida Zen. Off My Cloud, Pura Vida Zen. It's those 2. It's a photo finish. Off My Cloud or Pura Vida Zen right together on the wire. Social Affair leads them into the stretch. Social Affair in front. Strum and Spoiler Alert on the outside. Professor Pegasus down at the rail. Then it's Shopping Spree and Pure of Spirit. Social Affair in front by 4. The others are giving chase. And the odds-on favorite here, Social Affair, will get the job done. Pure of Spirit comes on to get 2nd, and it looked like Shopping Spree finished 3rd.
Phipps Stable was Social Affair in race 6 by a lot, up close on a pretty comfortable pace on the turf for Shug. And
it was a ridiculously slow pace, 1:21 and 3 for 3/4.
Would they ring up the half in 55 or something like that?
I haven't seen fractions like that in quite a long time. And Joe Bravo obviously realizing that and getting Social Affair clear in more time than he actually needed.
Well, if you like Shug on the turf, and most of us do, you'll be able to get him and bet him at a big price on Saturday out at Santa Anita. He's got a couple horses, Abaco, who's 15-1 on the line in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, and he's got Imagining. What do you think of him getting on a very firm turf course in the BC
I think he'll
Turf?
love it. He will love it. He's a big, solid horse, and those kind just usually tend to relish that kind of going. And, too, he's a horse that likes to be forwardly placed, so that should play well into his hands.
All right, an interesting long shot as we talk about Charlton Baker and send it back to Joking, who stalked in the clear 3 wide, 4 wide or so in race number 3. Manny Franco's first win on today's card. Talk about Charlton Baker, raised in Jamaica, high percentage guy on this circuit up at Finger Lakes. What does it say for a guy like this that can put up big numbers at 2 different circuits at the same time?
I love the job that Charlie does. Talk about excellent horsemanship and care that these horses get. Every horse that comes over has an excellent coat on them. They're very well fed. I mean, they carry their conditioning. They're always really strong looking. And as far as, having horses at Finger Lakes and here, he has a great assistant. He has a great team behind him that has worked with him for a long time, knows his deal, but he also splits his time very appropriately at each place. So he's never too far away and has his hand on each operation.
All right, continued success to Charlton Baker, a real good guy who's set for a big winter, or certainly run up through this main track onto the inner at Aqueduct. As we we don't have any claims to report on day number 2 of the fall meet. When we come back, California Chrome, untappable, close hatches. It's Breeders' Cup weekend. You're not going to want to miss the wrap-up segment here on MSG+. Pretty sunsets at this time of the day. I mean, the skylines of New York City and Manhattan are unbeatable on the Manhattan Terrace, 3rd floor of this clubhouse, which has been newly revamped. $14 million in renovations over the last 16 months or so. How much of a difference do you see in Aqueduct from when we left here in April?
Well, even when you drive up to the Big A, you know, from the parking lot, the outside facade looks fantastic. We have that great mural of Secretariat there. They've added some new paint, some new color. It's just fresher. It just, you know, livens it up a bit. And, you know, especially long shots, they've really made that a nice place to go watch the races.
Yeah, play year-round for sure. We hope you're out here with us regarding the entire Breeders' Cup weekend and even Sunday, where we've got a couple of stakes on the program for the 2-year-olds. But Breeders' Cup is where it's about regarding today, this Thursday Twitter question on Aqueduct Insider. We sent it out. Give us a follow. If you're not following Maggie and myself on Twitter, you might get a follow back, and certainly you'll get some good insight throughout each and every racing day. But I sent out the question, can the 3-year-olds sweep the exacta or trifecta in the Breeders' Cup Classic? If so, why? We get to our first response here. And speaking of giving out a follow on Twitter, here's the man you need to follow, the big Ace DeBio. 1 to 20, you'll be happy you did it. And he said, absolutely not.
I totally agree.
Yeah, the only sophomore that will have a say in the matter is Tonalist. So the big A to Stabile says, throw out all the California West Coast 3-year-olds. It's all about the Belmont Gold Cup winner, Tonalist.
Yeah, you know, Stabile and I, either we agree wholeheartedly or we completely disagree, but I agree with him wholeheartedly here with the Tonalist factor. I mean, we've heard that Richie Miglioria out on the West Coast for HRTV. We've been kind of corresponding with him that he has not liked the look of Shared Belief in the mornings. He's really lacked energy, and you kind of revert back to that last race, and it wasn't his top performance. Yes, they made it tough on him, Jay, but he kind of lacked energy in finishing that race as well. So Tonalist looks to me is the one that's going out there with the best kind of form and the best kind of, you know, momentum into the Classic.
Would you like to see Christophe Comont take down the Breeders' Cup Classic with a first ever winner of the Belmont Gold Cup and BC Classic? And of course, 3-year-old honors a potential Horse of the Year title up for grabs in the $5 million Classic. As we talk about Shared Belief, who apparently and evidently the MIG hasn't really cared for from a physical standpoint over the last few days training out at Santa Anita, as this horse will look to become the first ever unbeaten 3-year-old of the Breeders' Cup Classic. He, of course, has won a couple Grade 1s at his last pair, defeated a fellow 3-year-old, Toast of New York, 2 back in the Peak Classic.
Yeah, he did, and this was impressive. This is a horse who I feel as though does like a synthetic surface a bit more, and obviously Toast of New York, who is in the Classic as well. We don't know if he likes dirt or not. So we'll see. Like I said, that Awesome again, it wasn't what you want to see going into the Classic.
All right, other 3-year-olds, California Chrome, Bayern, how do they run? So many plot lines in this $5 million Breeders' Cup Classic with a post time of 8:35 on Saturday. As we fast forward to Friday's action and anchoring Breeders' Cup Day 1, it's the BC Distaff, untappable, your leading 3-year-old filly. You were at Parks the day she won the Cotillion.
Yeah, and people not overly thrilled with the margin of victory that Untappable got this done, but I thought it was a good return. She had been away from the races for a while, training up at Saratoga with Steve Asmussen after what I can't say it was necessarily disappointing, Jay. Her efforts in the Haskell, she was against the boys, she was against the racetrack. Things just worked out far more better than for Bayern, and I feel as though Steve didn't have her absolutely tight for the Cotillion, and that he wanted something left in the tank for this Distaff.
Well, maybe speaking of not being, you know, fully cranked and fully tightened, as we took a look at the field of 11, and in fact, 11 set the battle and post time 7:35 Eastern, and Untappable is the 5-2 morning line favorite, but maybe Belmont didn't have closed hatches at her peak, knowing he was going to be in the the realm of 1-9 or 1-5 in the Spinster, just figuring I'll ship her to Keeneland. It's a race named for Juddmonte, and she'll get an easy victory. She came up empty. Don't Tell Sophia with the upset from off the pace.
Yeah, exactly. Don't Tell Sophia was pretty impressive in here, circling the field and drawing away to win, albeit on her incorrect lead there under Joe Rocco. But the Spinster from Closed Hatches, Bill Mott scratched his head as well. So he obviously went over with a fine-tooth comb. Nothing's wrong. He's hoping for a big effort in the distaff.
Does look like a race. There'll be a hot pace, and we'll see if that certainly works in the favor of Untappable, but looking forward to seeing her and Closed Hatches square off in the BC distaff. As we come back home to the Big A, we'll have a 9-race card. First race post of 1 p.m. Double pick 6 carryover as well of around $50,000 or so. Hopefully I can get some confirmation regarding that double pick 6 carryover number. But anyway, race number 7 on the afternoon.
45.
In the neighborhood of 50. I'll put in the extra 5 large and bump it up to 50,000 for everybody. But that'll get underway in race number 4, and we talk about the highlight beginning with the Kelso and Scarly Charlie, who's getting some class relief.
This is not the Kelso, but we will check out.
Yeah, well, Scarly Charlie, let's talk about him. We'll get on to the competition in a second. He's dropping out of a narrow 4th in the Kelso for Mike Hushin, and here we go. Is this the Kelso? Yeah, that's River Rocks on the front end. And this was a race, Maggie, where Scarly Charlie wound up running 4th.
Yeah, Scarly Charlie seems to be progressing in his mental state. He was a wacko when Mike Hushin first got him. And going back to Belmont Day, I thought each and every time I've seen him so far, he's improved. They seem to take pretty big leaps of faith in this horse and put him in very tough spots. But when he's against horses that he kind of measures up to pretty well, he runs pretty well.
Vince Ramos and Mosler dropping out of the same October 8th race behind Bay of Plenty.
Bay of Plenty is a horse that we've all have had high hopes for, and Mosler ran very good. I mean, I've been impressed with what I've seen from this horse coming back off the layoff. I love the one-turn mile form. We'll see if he likes the Big A as much as he has Belmont. But Vince Ramos, maybe he needed that race. He is second off of a long layoff for the always capable Todd Pletcher.
All right, 45K in the Kitty, our first 9-race card of the fall, and Andy Serling continues his winning ways as we send it over.
Thanks a lot. We will go to the turf. Race 4 on Friday's card. I don't like the post, but I like the horse. I like the 12, Summer Forever. Jimmy Toner does a very good job. This horse is dropping from maiden special weights to maiden claimers. Jimmy Toner, with a limited number of stars, has done well with this move on the turf. Thought this horse ran against better horses when she made her debut. Unsuccessful trying the dirt last time. Back on the right surface. Finds the right field. If Summer Forever can get a trip from post 12, Summer Forever can get the money in race 4 as we go back to Jason and Maggie.
Certainly could do a lot worse than Jimmy Toner on the turf. We'll root for Summer Forever. Big A forever, as Maggie and I say. The buzzer has sounded. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow for our first Breeders' Cup wrap-up on the Friday edition of Insider.